working drummer.
Now kick it.
This is the Working Drummer Podcast, serving up perspectives, experiences, and stories from ground-level working pros. Advice, tips, and secrets on how to build a career in the music business.
Hey everyone, Zach Albetta here with another episode of Working Drummer Podcast. Today's interview is with Josh Heffernan, who for quite a while now has been the drummer for the LA-based band Dustbowl Revival. This is an 8-piece band that hits a lot of musical bases, including folk, rock, bluegrass, and New Orleans swing. And if that sounds like a good time, it absolutely is. They were voted Best Live Band in LA Weekly a few years back, and they've only gotten bigger and better since then. They released an album, a live album in 2015, and have been touring pretty relentlessly on the back of it in North America and Europe, and recently returned from their first trip to China. They were playing a gig here in Atlanta a few weeks ago, and Josh was kind enough to take an hour to talk with me between soundcheck and gig time. This episode of Working Drummer is sponsored by Aquarian Drumheads, makers of the Aquarian Multipurpose Super Pad, both a great feeling pad for practice and a responsive drum mute for low-volume music making. Every drummer needs to turn down the volume sometime. The Aquarian Super Pad can keep the drummer playing all of the time. Check out the Super Pad and the full line of Aquarian drumheads and accessories at aquariandrumheads.com. So Josh and I recorded this interview on the patio of a little coffee shop near the venue they were playing, so you may hear a little outdoor ambiance, but I think it was well worth it to get him on the podcast. He's a really funny and energetic dude, and it was great to hear about his life and times in Dustbowl Revival. So here we go with Josh Heffernan. Dustbowl Revival just recently returned from a trip to China.
Yeah.
Tell me how that came about.
It came about from this guy, Warren, who kind of puts on, he finds bands, and through the kind of the cultural side of the Chinese government, he books bands, like a cultural exchange.
Right.
And they'll do it vice versa. They'll bring groups over to the States.
Mm-hmm.
So we went there for 25 days.
Yeah, it was a pretty long stretch.
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was it was cool. I mean, it was interesting, I'll say on the level, the people are phenomenal.
Right.
Every person I met was like giving, caring, just super into what was going on. Didn't even matter that if they knew you're a musician or not.
Right.
They were just psyched to see you. There was some real funny stuff. Like basically everywhere we went, it was like, besides like the first, like the shows at the big colleges, it would be like, oh, well, you guys need 18 channels. Well, we have like 4 on this board and like 2 on this board and like 6 on this board. And they would just like piecemeal boards together to get enough,
Oh, wow.
And my favorite show out of all of them was like, they asked us if we wanted to extend a week. And they're like, you're not going to get paid more, but we're going to take it out like Shaolin Temple and all these extra places. So we were like, of course.
Right.
So they have us play at this like amusement park. But it was this gigantic stage. Huge.
Yeah.
And like where Liz came down on a thing.
Right.
Like, it was all,
on a ramp or something?
Like, no, it was like this thing that she held on to. It was like a, like something you see in Vegas where they lift the singer up out, right? And so it's maybe like a 30-foot drop into water and everybody's around there. And so it's probably 100 yards to the first person, and all they have is 3 wireless microphones for all of us.
Oh my God.
That's all they have.
Oh my God.
Like it's 3, no monitors, 3 wireless microphones, and we just have to play on this gigantic like Epcot Center style stage. It was insane, man.
How did that go over?
It went over.
They loved it?
No, it was just, people dug it, but what are you going to do at that point?
Right.
You just persevere and go.
Right. So you went there to play, like you said, colleges, sort of not your typical music venues, not clubs.
We did some. We did some
venues?
like theaters. A lot of the theaters were interesting just because they were kind of remnants of, old communist, more like meeting halls that had been converted. So they didn't really have the, you would hit a snare drum and you'd be like, But, we made it work, it was cool. Like, we had a great time, then the people were awesome. The crowds in some of the places were just, the fucking, sorry, I probably shouldn't swear.
No, drop it.
The craziest part was, like, when you would get done with the show, you would literally get mauled by people. It was like they're so polite,
right?
But once the show ends, it's just like, bam. I mean, I remember times getting shoved up against the wall and people are like trying to get selfies, and you're just like, fucking hold on, like one at a time. You next, you next, you next.
Right.
You know, and they're just like it. It was.
And was that because of their response to your music, or the fact that you're an American visitor of any sort? Or
I mean, I would like to say it was all the music, you know,
right.
But I think it was a combination of both. You know, I think people really like that. You know, it's you know, we don't do as much of that old timey stuff anymore. You know,
right?
But I think when we do, that's like maybe it's something in the psyche of like that's American music.
Right? They recognize it.
Yeah. And so. Yeah, the other thing that I thought was really hilarious about it was we would finish a tune and you could tell they were amped and they would just be like, bah! And they would start clapping and then they would all end together like 2.5 seconds later.
Whoa.
It was literally like, bah! And then just silence, and we'd be sitting on stage looking at each other like, what the hell just happened?
Oh, that's so bizarre.
But it was great, you know. They really loved it, and it was a good time. It was definitely, you know, it was funny at the beginning because they kept going, "Oh, it's gonna be a trip of a lifetime. It's gonna be a trip of a lifetime." And after a while, you're like, "Please stop saying that. We understand." But really, it was a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dustbowl had been to Europe before, right? But not.
Yes.
Not
no,
Asia?
we've never been to Asia before.
Cool.
Yeah, that was the first time.
Wow.
We went last year. We did. Like 2 or 3 weeks in the Netherlands, and then we went to Norway. Mm-hmm. I think we're going back to like Denmark this year or something. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you hail from Seattle.
Yes.
And how old are you?
I'm 38.
So you grew up like in the sweet spot of grunge there.
I guess, you know, I was probably in the sweet spot of grunge. I was probably like early middle school.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I caught on a little later.
Okay.
At that point, I was really into like Tower of Power and
Really?
Ohio Players and stuff like that. You know, that was like my jam.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, whatever, popular music.
Yeah.
You know, I'm into the old stuff, but, you know, a few years later, you can't. It's like a virus, man. You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. When something's that good and that popular, you know, if it's crappy and popular, it's easy to walk away from it. But when it's that good, so I was definitely on the train.
Yeah. And how did that influence your playing, like as a teenager?
Oh man, you know,
because the drumming, like the 90s are a golden age of drumming.
Oh, I mean, Cameron, from Soundgarden. I mean, first, like, I mean, I'm sure that there are so many guys my age or even younger, older, that was like maybe some of the first odd meter songs they ever got to play,
right?
Like ever,
yeah. And
it was like something that you could do. Mm-hmm. You know, and you're just like, oh my God, this is like a whole new world.
Yeah.
You know, I've never done anything like this before. Like, you know, and a lot of the times, like when I was first starting, I didn't even know what it was. Mm-hmm. You just like hear it and copy it, but I had no clue if it was 7 or 5. Like I just knew it wasn't 4/4.
Right.
You know, and because that's really early. I mean, I started playing when I was just before I was 18. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it was I played clarinet before that.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
I made the jump. Oh, we don't need to talk about that. We don't need to talk about that.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because I was thinking earlier today. I don't know what made me think of it, but there was like a Neil Peart interview article, whatever, years ago, where somebody was asking him about playing odd meters. And he said, I don't think about the odd meter. I think of the lyric. I think of the guitar lick. Like, right. I don't count it. I just learn how that song feels, like where that lyric hits or what that, you know.
Yeah. I feel like maybe there's 2 different schools. Like when I look at it 2 different ways. Like with Neil, I think it was easy for him to do that. And, you know, 100% love and props to Neil. He's an amazing drummer.
Yeah.
But when they played live, they did exactly the record all the time.
Yeah.
It never changed.
Yeah.
But if you want to play like a Herbie Hancock tune at 7, you need to be able to like throw down over the top of that.
Totally.
So you need to know learn how to internalize and figure out your way of doing it. You know, if it's going to be, you know, thinking of, you know, 2-2-3 and feeling the pulse, or just being one of those crazy people like, you know, Tal Wakenfield, who's just like, can do anything.
As we all know, if we learn the Herbie Hancock tunes in 7 and the Rush tunes, like the gigs just come pouring in.
Well, you know Tal Wakenfield. So we went to school together.
Really?
She's like a good friend, right?
Cool.
And unfortunately, I haven't seen her in a while. Just, you know, she's crazy busy. But I remember in school, she she just has this like insane ability to play any odd meter with any grouping and any combination. Like to her, it's just nothing.
Right.
And so we used to play together all the time, and she would just like, what is this? And we play, and then she starts like messing. It's like something in 11, and she starts messing around with the grouping, and then she's just like solo, and then I start soloing, and then I get all pissed off, and then I stop, and she's like, "Don't stop," and then she would just like forcibly make me just solo while she's like playing crazy stuff over this, and I'd be like, she's like, "Keep going," I'm like. You're like 12 years younger than me, and you're telling me what to do, and I'm just like doing it, you know? Right. But it was great, you know?
Yeah.
That was, and I studied with Ralph Humphrey, so we really got really in depth.
LACM.
Yeah, well, I did like private instruction with him for maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
Right.
After that, so, we got pretty in depth with that. But like you said, you learn that, and the gigs just start rolling. I mean, it was just like I couldn't. Yeah, I just couldn't stop, just saying yes to people, man.
It reminds me of something else my grad school mentor told us. I studied in grad school with Bobby Watson, who was the alto sax player with the Messengers,
right?
And, went on to do a bunch of shit in his own right. But we were talking about odd meter, and he was like, most other cultures don't think of odd meter as odd.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like he's like, if you listen to Turkish music, it's all in 7 or 5 or something, but they don't think of it as 7. He said to them it's 2 with a kick. Yeah. 1 2 hey, 1 2 hey, 1 2 hey.
Oh, I like that. That's really funny. Yeah, I had some like Greek buddies at this school that were just like, what is the problem?
Yeah, right.
It's like, what are you?
I'm like, laying it down, man.
Blown over the top of it. And like, why is this weird to you?
But so, I mean, Ralph would go way beyond 2 with a kick. That was,
man, like, he I mean, if you ever wanted a teacher that could go like in depth and then take it to the next level in depth and go to the next, I mean, he's your guy.
Yeah.
But he did a really cool thing that I think helped musically because, I love fusion. There's certain kinds that I like and certain kinds that I like. One of the things I don't really care for is like we're gonna play in 15 just because we can play in 15.
Right.
Like to me that's just not musical. It's just like and so what he would always do is when we'd be working on something, it was always like and when drummers ask me like, what should I do? I'm like, he would always say like, figure out this thing, we're doing something in 15. Figure out the intro of the song. Figure out the verse of the song. Figure out the chorus, figure out the bridge. To where you're thinking of it as a song instead of just being like, I'm going to play in 15 with a shit ton of notes.
Right.
And try to play fills everywhere. Like, actually make it a song and something that's musical, And, I think, once we get to a certain level, that's a very easy thing to just be like, wow, let the beast out. And
totally.
Just, see what can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to, I've before, like, let the beast out, jokingly let the beast out, and then heard the recording and been like, what the hell? What the hell was I doing there? Like, why did I do that? It makes zero sense.
Yeah.
And so keeping that mindset of keeping it musical all the time.
Right.
It was important to me.
Was Ralph and the LA College of Music the reason you came to LA from Seattle?
I mean, no, he was not. Okay. So I was actually looking at MI. So I had gotten out of the military. I was a musician in the military.
That's right. So you were in an army band based in Washington?
Yeah. I left the school. So you have to go to a school. It's weirdly Little Creek Amphibious Base. It's a Navy SEAL base.
Jesus.
And that's where the Military School of Music is, which is very strange. You would like go outside during break and there'd be like a helicopter with like Navy SEALs hanging from a rope, like waving at you.
Wow.
Yeah, it was strange, but they, like, that was maybe one of the best things that ever happened to me musically because they do not let you get away with not learning all of your rudiments, every basic technique from mallets to orchestral to concert to everything. You better have that stuff. Not just solid to the next level, Right. And so it was a good basis. So when I left the military, like, you just learn from there.
Yeah.
And so I left there, and I didn't know where I wanted to go to school. I went back to Seattle for a little bit, and I was doing like theater work. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my friends who are monster musicians just do big theater work in Seattle still, because after the grunge scene, not much happening up there,
right?
Which is really a shame because there's so many great bands and musicians up there, but it's just that's how the industry works sometimes.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, maybe I'll go to MI. So I went down to MI, and needless to say, I won't get into details. I wasn't too into what was going on there, you know. So I had like an extra day, so I went over to, at that time, LA Music Academy. Because I think they just recently changed, right? Like
right, it was LA Music Academy, and they recently rebranded it, and it's now LA College of Music.
Yeah, and it was a few years ago that I think that happened. Yeah. So I went there, and I met Mike Packard, who I think may be the head of drums there now.
He is. I
so he was, you know, just super cool. It was during finals, but he took the time to come talk to me, and I listened to the players, and the other thing was it was a lot smaller, because you know those were the guys that left MI, and it was, for lack of a better word, they like kind of started a boutique school,
right?
Where, I mean, my class, I moved ahead just because like the first half of the school is your basic, and because of the Army I had it, so I was able to move up. But it was like my class was like 15 people.
Wow.
And you know, there they hire musicians. At that point in time, they would hire like badass professionals to come in and play with you. You never played with students.
They still do that. I did some of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I decided to go there, and it was a great experience because I got to. I mean, the people I got to study with were.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know Tony Anzalaka?
No.
You should look, man. He's like the first time I ever did a class with him. He was like one of the. It was Joe Picaro and him were the heads of the jazz department, and he kind of took me under his wing. He played with everybody. I mean, he used to like sit. I think he used to like sit in with Buddy Rich's band. I mean, the dude is just. He shows up to my lessons with a 3-piece suit on in the middle of summer and a briefcase, and then he would like open up his briefcase and there's like a sheet of music, sticks, and brushes.
Wow.
He was just a Brooklyn guy. I mean, old school Brooklyn. He was like the best. But this guy, he has his quintet. Might be a quintet or sextet, but he writes everything. He's like, to me, one of the best writers out there right now. And guy, I mean, he's like late 70s, he's still hitting like he's in his mid 20s.
Yeah.
Just, man, he was so good. But him and Ralph, and I mean, the guy I think probably did the most for me was Mike Shapiro. Mm-hmm. You know, he wasn't a private instructor, but he definitely taught me a lot. He got me into Brazilian, which I had never really done Brazilian, but I got pretty deep into the scene just because he like introduced me to some people, and then when I got better, he kind of like introduced me to more people.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I remember you telling me a while back, like at the time that you started playing with Dustbowl, you had been full-time with this Brazilian band.
Yeah, well, I would say at that point I hadn't been with them for like 2 years. I mean, you know, with everything, sometimes you just get, you know, a little burnout. Because we were doing like 4 days a week at clubs, and it was just like, you know, it's just with everything. When you do something all the time, it's like, you know, especially as a drummer, like one of the great things about being a drummer is playing all these different things, you know?
Yeah.
You know, not just being a jazz drummer, not just being a Brazilian drummer.
We're sluts.
Which it's totally true. Tony would get mad at me, and he's like, "You're a jack of all trades and a master of none." like, I don't just want to be a jazz drummer, Tony.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I want to drive a really expensive car.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of guys playing only jazz that you know. And I mean, truthfully, there's not a lot of guys playing only anything.
Right.
That make the bills every month. Like
right.
You almost have to be able to convincingly do 3 or 4 different things.
Right. And I mean, I'm going to be honest. I like to think of myself as a very good jazz drummer, but when I hear some of these guys now, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well,
like, just killing it. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. There's this guy that I'm trying to like get together with and take a lesson with, Brian Carter out of New York. He's like a Juilliard guy.
Yeah.
They call their crew like the Young Swangers. And this dude, woo.
He might be a Sakai guy, actually.
He might, dude. This dude is killing it.
Yeah.
Killing it. I mean, just killing it.
Man.
Yeah. Like 24 and just like making me feel bad about myself.
Right. I have the same experience once in a while where, you know, I'll be feeling good about myself because, you know, I look at kind of the variety of gigs that I do, and it's like, oh, look at all these different circles I'm getting calls from. Yeah. And then I'll see someone who has like dedicated themselves to one thing and is just slaying it, and I'm like, man.
Yeah. It's you know, and that was, you know, I mean, as somebody who likes to do a lot of stuff, like one of the things I learned a long time ago is that, you know, luckily when I was young, I got I had some really great players say, it's like, when people would get like learn how to play a samba out of a book where it wrote out a samba.
Right.
And, when you hear people play that, you're like, yeah, you're not really playing. It's like, and it's like, oh, I learned how to play this. What they told me when I was really young was, like, you have a facility, right? As a drummer, you have your technical abilities, your ears, all these things. Spend most of your time just learning the correct feel.
Yeah.
Get that feel, man, because it's like, a lot of people, it's like the swing in Brazilian, the swing in Cuban music.
Right.
Like, and get that feel, and then everything you have as an ability as a drummer is going to come out.
Right.
And shine, and that will be you. It won't be...
Through that lens.
Exactly.
In that, yeah.
Like, when you just learn grooves, that's not you. That's just something you learn out of a book.
Right.
And so, Hey. Hey, everybody in podcast land. This is Liz B, my singer.
Hi.
Lay it on them. That's all we get. All right.
She's a great singer.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, and so that's what I always try to think about,
and a lot of mastering the groove has nothing to do with time spent on the kit.
No,
it's listening. It's
Yeah,
listening to the masters of that groove and the great records and the great artists.
And I think also, yes, 100%. And maybe experiencing the culture.
Yeah.
Being around the people, that do. I mean, some of the like best lessons like in Brazilian music I ever got was being at like parties full of Brazilians and everybody's just picking up percussion and just slaying it. You're just like, oh man, I need to watch what you're doing right now because you are an accountant, but you're killing that instrument right there.
Right.
Just like killing it,
Right.
And so, that's
because he's been doing it since he was born.
Totally.
Like it's
totally. Everybody was just killing it. And I do miss it. I don't do it as much. Obviously, with this band, I can't do it.
Right.
But I still have friends that are just killing it in the scene.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. It seems like for a couple years, like Dustbowl has kind of been on the rise in a big way. I think in the last 2 years. Just
I would say, like really, really touring a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, from my perspective, somebody looking at you on Facebook or whatever, it seems like it's all Dustbowl all the time.
Pretty much now it is.
And how do you feel about that? Like, there's.
Oh, I mean, I have to say, like the first word, I'm blessed to be in a band that plays all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I think anybody that works that much, and is a blessing and a curse. Like,
yeah,
you love working all the time, but I mean, I may be home 5 months out of the year, and it's all spread out between like 4 days at home this time,
right?
2 days at home this time. So keeping and it's funny because you spend most of your days at home taking care of shit that you couldn't take care of when you were on the road. So it's just like work all the time. But you have to be happy being able to play in front of great crowds every night.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say I do want to play other stuff, just as a musician, or as an artist. You want to like do these other things, like, and I every once in a while I'll get to do it, and it's awesome. It's awesome just to. It's almost like it's almost like refreshing to go do something else and then come back. Yeah. It's like even one gig playing with like a fusion thing, you come back and you're like, oh, and everything's like all these ideas, like it's all these ideas are coming out that you maybe forgot about.
Yeah.
Because the everyday playing, sometimes you forget about stuff. You're like, oh shit, that was a really good lick. Why did I stop doing that?
Yeah.
All right,
But like the flip side of that is the beauty of going so deep with one group and getting so tight.
Totally.
With one group.
Oh man, it's it's really an exciting time now because we're kind of I wouldn't say changing the sound, but it's working, melding instead of doing these different things, what I'm like the different like we're kind of starting to meld everything together, so we're like creating this sound now.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit different, but it's awesome. And
for listeners who aren't hip to Dustbowl Revival, first of all, you should be. But second of all, as a band, I think over the years, like you said, a Dustbowl set list is going to have some swing tunes, some New Orleans tunes, some straight up bluegrass string band type shit.
Right.
You guys cover a lot of bases, but you're saying now it's all starting to kind of come together into a singular.
I think that's
thing.
I think that's a natural, a progression.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, it's cool, you know, because before it was very this and that, but you know, you want to create something that, because you want to combine all these elements into one thing.
Yeah.
And that's where you get like something new and something new.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't think of another word there.
No, new works.
But you know, that's a cool, you know, it's really exciting right now, and we're doing some pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we're starting to work. I think what we're going to do this summer is try to release like 3 songs.
Yeah.
And then start working on a new full-length record after that.
Cool.
So,
Go ahead.
No, please.
Well, I want to talk about your last full-length record,
Okay.
which was released, what, a year ago?
Yeah, I would say about, yeah.
Yeah. That's with A Lampshade On?
Yes.
And it's an interesting way that this record came together, because it's part studio and part live.
Right.
And even the live stuff is broken up between 2 different concerts at 2 different venues.
Yeah.
So how did this record come to be the way it was made?
Well, I'm trying to think. The record before that, we had done it at the studio in LA, and it was kind of like people could come in when they can. You know, at that point we weren't working. We were working a lot, but it's not anything like it was now. Mm-hmm. So people were doing some other stuff, and we would come in. And this is, you know, years ago, that last record before Lampshade came out. And so I thought it would be cool, just because one of our strong points is live shows.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, let's find a spot and let's record everything live. Let's capture this live sound. And so one of my good friends in New York hit me to this guy, Matt Marinelli, who does like Nora Jones and stuff and all this stuff. And he's got this studio where his like special, you know, what he specializes in is like, he's like the Neve guy. He has all the old Neve boards. He's got like all the beautiful old ribbon mics. Like we record on those old RCA, like giant RCA ribbon mics.
Yeah.
And so we went in there and we just got a day. We had a day off in New York. I'm like, we could record a whole album. So we just did a couple takes of everything. And then we thought it would be cool to, we have a friend, this guy, Alex Chaloff, who does, you know, he records all the big jazz artists and stuff. So he was a friend of ours. So we asked him if he'd be willing, you know, obviously hire him to record us live. So we did the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco and then the Troubadour. And we just kind of decided to pick the best out of all of those.
Yeah.
And it just so happened, I think there's two of the New York session. I think Lampshade is the New York session.
Right.
And then...
Is it Ballad of the Bellhop?
Oh, so there's 3. I think it's Ballad of the Bell... Maybe not Ballad of the Bellhop. I'm failing right now with my own album.
You played a lot of shows since then.
Yeah, no doubt. No, the one we did, the Dick Van Dyke thing. God, what the... I can't even think of my own song.
If I wasn't...
Yeah, Never Had to Go.
Never Had to Go.
I think that one.
Yeah,
and then, so those 3, I think, made it on as the studio versions, and then we did the rest live, which was great, you know. And I think this record, we want to do more like an act, you know, not just like actually like add upon it and, you know, try to do like an old school record where, you know, I think, you know, some records now people kind of look at it like, oh, well, it's going to be on, you know, iTunes.
Right.
So, you know, people are just going to buy a song at a time.
Right.
So a lot of times I think people just put, these are our 15 best songs instead of creating like a landscape.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like what we really want to do now is create like a full landscape album that does something, you know, a little bit more than just throw a bunch of tunes that, you know, and hopefully, you know, we want people to listen to it front to back.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So. And I mean, that being said, you know, what you did with Lampshade, just throwing a bunch of tunes together and like worked great. And I'm sure there was some intentionality.
We thought a lot, yeah, definitely.
About, but just it seemed like a just kind of mishmash of songs in the best possible sense. Right. And it's what you were talking about earlier about, like, you know, sort of different styles. Like for this song, we're going to hit this bass, and for that next song, we're going to do more of this thing. Right. And it worked really beautifully, despite the fact that it was recorded at 3 different places at 3 different times.
Yeah. We lucked out that it didn't. That was one of the big fears is this studio session going to sound so far off of this live recording that it's just going to be weird. Yeah. And luckily it didn't. Yeah. It didn't turn out that way. But we're real proud of that record. And seems to be doing well.
It is. I think so. Speaking of old school stuff, Dust Bowl definitely has like a vintage feel. I think it's fair to say, without being a museum piece,
right?
You know, but I interviewed another LA drummer, Willie McNeil, who does a lot of vintage stuff.
Another person I don't know.
I know.
Man, I need to make a list here.
It would be a long list of guys we don't know. But I asked him, like, what do you attribute the kind of recent resurgence in vintage stuff? And his first answer was, well, because all of the new stuff sucks.
Right.
Which is true, but but do you think it's more than that? Do you think
I do? Man, I don't know. You know, I think it's a lot of things. I think it's the songwriting, and that's actually one of the cool. You look at like the old vintage, like in the '90s, that kickoff where you had like Big Bad Voodoo Daddy and Royal Crown River. They're doing the swing. I mean, it's
right,
and that that kind of was pretty fast. Came in and came out. But I think one of the things that's made this, and it's it's changing. Now it's changing. Like, you still have the vintage kind of sound, but everything's melding. It's kind of melding into the next. Like, it's not. It's what I see. It's not as big as it was the last like 3 years. But I think the biggest thing is these bands that are coming out doing it. Like, the songwriting is, I mean, so above par. I mean, it's amazing. It's like really great artists are taking this genre or these different old genres and really like, and instead of just using that genre as the catalyst to get sold, they're using that genre because they like it and they're just writing awesome tunes, And so that, and I think people are, kind of hungry for that analog sound again. That warmth. That warmth is kind of gone. Even though, you don't technically, I guess, need tape to make it warm anymore.
Right,
but
it's
that
just
sound is gone.
And it's the feeling of something handmade.
Totally.
And I think it's not just happening in music. It's happening in food and clothing and like all sorts of shit. There's a craving for just sort of down-to-earth, made by humans.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool time to live, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, everything's reverting back where the kind of fighting the system a little bit. It's pretty awesome.
Right, and at the same time, we're sitting outside at a coffee shop with a laptop that weighs half a pound.
And this sweet silver microphone. Is it silver?
Yeah.
I know, it's like shimmery. It's really nice. But you're right, it's kind of cool to see that happening because, when we grew up, like, or when I was young and I see like bands like Pearl Jam, this whole grunge scene that I saw, and these guys were living the quote unquote rock star dream. They're getting the money, they're getting to travel, they're getting like these things that when you're a young musician, you're like, oh my god, this would be like amazing. And that is gone. That is just gone. I mean, like, what was it like? You used to put out an album. Like, you would tour to promote your album. Right. Now you put out an album to promote your tour. Right. Because you don't make money off albums. Yeah. And I mean, it's a good and bad thing because for like, not spectator audiences. There's the right word. Jeez. For audiences, it's great because there's been kind of this resurgence of live music. Because every band, that's how you make. I mean, it's amazing how many festivals are happening. It's just like. You're like, oh, we're playing this festival on Thursday. I've never heard of this festival, and you show up and there's like 50,000 people, and you're like, what the hell? Right. It's awesome. I mean, it's great for us, it's great for them. I mean, it would be nice to get back to the days where there's a balance. Yeah. Yeah, I'm ambivalent about it as well because on the one hand, it used to be that guys were making money literally in their sleep. Right. They would do one session and get paid for it for the rest of their lives. Yeah. And that doesn't happen anymore. But at the same time, the market for the reason we wanted to do this in the first place is way bigger. And it seems like a little bit more of an honest living. Totally. We're really, it's funny when, you don't come across them a lot, but, there's people out there that just kind of don't really look kindly upon the job of being a musician. I think there's a lot of people who don't really understand how much work is involved. I mean, not only just the business side, but, we're going to be practicing until the day we die, and we're still never going to learn everything. Right. It's a never-ending thing. And, that's, when it really comes down to it for me, like, obviously you want to have a house and you want to be able to live and be comfortable, but it's really about the art. That's what really makes, most people, that's what really makes us happy. Yeah. We just want to play music that makes us happy and that we feel like we can artistically add to it.
Right. And it makes other people happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's nothing better than making a crowd dance. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
You know, you get to play funk all the time.
Oh, yeah, man.
I'm pretty jealous, man. Pretty jealous, I'll tell you what.
It's a good time. And I've like, it sounds like we've both kind of gone through the same progression mentally about how we think of different kinds of music, because you were talking about fusion and all this other stuff. I played exclusively jazz in Kansas City for a long time.
Nice.
and was really artistically minded, but the older I get, the more value I'm seeing in the entertainment of music.
Totally.
And making people dance and sending them off with a good time.
I remember back in the day, people would be like, "Are you having a good time?" I'm like, "I'm having a great time." And then I'd look at my face in a picture and go, "Oh man, I have like a total bitch face, man. Like, I don't know why. I'm totally having a great time." So it's
Totally.
get that smile on your face. Make sure
Yeah. Oh, I played at Disneyland. I know all about the smiling.
You know my roommate Nate Kentner.
Yeah. I played with him.
One of my great buddies, man.
I played with him in the Royal Street Bachelors and the Jambalaya Jazz Band.
Oh, I know the Jambalaya. Yeah, great,
yeah. Nate's a great guy, and he was on the record too, right?
Yeah, he came and did the Troubadour show with us.
Cool.
Nastied out on a little "Ain't My Fault" solo. That dude's a player.
It was filthy.
Yeah, that dude's a player. It
was great.
Sure.
Before we started recording, you were talking about like the hustle of LA and being a freelancer, not just in LA, but being a freelancer in general.
Right.
And you said you're pretty much just playing in one band now, but it's not like you don't hustle. So talk about the hustle of being a freelancer versus the hustle of being in a band and being married to that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's really not that crazy different. I mean, I think, as a freelance guy, you spend a lot of time out meeting new people, which, we do even now anyway.
Right.
That's just good to do. But it's like, I see some of my friends that are still doing this, and they have, I have, regular gigs every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then suddenly they're all gone. Mm-hmm. And, that's tough. People don't, realize, it's like you save money, and it's like, oh, as a musician, your girlfriend goes, you want to go on a vacation? You're like, I don't think I can do that,
I would
you have the money, but you're like, I don't know if in 2 months I'll have this money. It becomes a difficult thing, and it's, I've seen, it's just a constant, with the band, I always joke that it's like, the teamwork makes the dream work. Mm-hmm. I have 7 other people with me, all working for the same goal.
Right.
And so having that web of people, as a freelancer, you're normally just working by yourself.
Yeah.
You may have some buddies that, or musical directors you work for that will recommend you or use you all the time, which is fantastic.
Right.
But as, having a band, you're all working for the same goal, and everybody, the good thing is, it's a band of very intelligent people, so everybody can do these jobs that you may have to hire people for, and it gets done. But it's like, it's not just the hard work, it's the luck, or it's always some person going, we want you in this festival, or this and that, it's
right
like,
place, right time shit.
Totally. And then, that's definitely a thing.
Yeah. How are the jobs divided up in Dustbowl? Like, is so and so in charge of this and so is in charge of that?
We have like Daniel he'll do sound stuff. He's like the guy that gets, tossed to the sound people. Mm-hmm. I kind of do like the demoing now, recording and demoing stuff, or kind of that thing. Mm-hmm. We have like Matt will do like tour managing stuff. Liz just does everything because she's awesome and she's Liz, and she's like the best multitasker I've ever met in my life.
Right.
Zach, has taken less of a thing, but I mean, the guy did so much work.
Yeah.
But he still does. I mean, he still like does the lion's share. Like him and Liz do the lion's share. Mm-hmm. Like Connor does all the BMI, all the all that kind of stuff. So we try to spread it out. And, just have like monthly meetings where we get together and make sure everything's rolling.
Yeah. Do you guys have a manager or an agent? Or
we have like a booking agent.
Okay.
Virginia Prater, she's out of Knoxville. She's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. If anybody ever wants their band to work their butts off, Prater Day. Go to Prater Day.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty well oiled. I think the ultimate goal is to not have to do those jobs anymore. We get big enough to where we have to hire people to do those jobs. I mean, that's something that. But what is that? What does that even mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, what does that next level mean? Mm-hmm. You don't even really know what, if that will happen, when it will happen, what that is.
Yeah.
So it's just like you spend a lot of time preparing for something that may happen that you don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, we think it could be this,
right?
So we're going to prepare for this.
And in the meantime, let's just play the show.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like, having lawyers write up all these things and this and that.
Man.
And it's good. I mean, it's smart to do because everybody is protected. No matter what, like we're protected from managers and lawyers, blah, blah, blah. You do this, but it's all in preparation for the hope of that next step.
Right.
And it's looking really good.
Good.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So right now you're in the middle of a swing down the East Coast and through, we're in Atlanta right now, and then up through Nashville.
We do Nashville. We do Music City Roots tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
And then, which I just found out Kebmo is hosting.
Nice.
And that's going to be pretty awesome.
Very cool.
And then we do Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we do... Hold on, don't tell everybody I'm looking at my phone because I don't know what I'm It's tough, man. Sometimes you're just like, oh, there's another dot.
Right.
Lafayette.
Just get in the van and go.
Fort Collins, and then Old Settlers Music Festival.
Where's that?
Just outside of Austin. It's in a place called Driftwood, Texas. Apparently it's huge. I mean,
wow.
I hate to be that jerk that's like, I've never heard of it, but I'd never heard of it.
Well, like you said, there's so many festivals now, man. Yeah. It's blowing up.
We're just happy we're playing it. I mean, it's great,
And it's funny, since I've been here in Atlanta, like, it gets cold during the winter. It doesn't really snow, but you don't really want to be outside. But starting in like late February or March, the weather gets nice, and I swear to God, there's a festival every weekend.
Is there?
Yeah, it's just like the beer festival and the crab festival and the oyster thing and the jazz thing and it's every
That's
weekend.
awesome.
There's something going on,
I'm sure there's a ton of work.
Yeah, there's music. There's music at all of it.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
We need to come. We were here last. I think we were here in like June or something. June, July.
Okay.
Sometime last year during the summer, and it was pretty hot.
Yeah,
it was pretty hot.
I'm waiting for it.
As you can tell, I'm not built for hot weather. I'm a temperate climate kind of guy. Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful down here. I love coming down. Like, the people are really great. And,
it is. Yeah. It is very cool. Oh, I wanted to ask you about your kit.
Okay.
Because the same way Dustbowl is sort of an amalgam of a bunch of different shit. Your kit, in a few different little ways, is combining the New Orleans thing and the Bluegrass thing. And that's another thing I wanted to ask you. There aren't really drums in Bluegrass traditionally.
Yeah, I kind of always play, which is like a horrible thing to admit, but I kind of always play the train beat.
Yeah.
And I'll put like different accents. I'll accent with my my kick and stuff. But in the Bluegrass, when I say Bluegrass players, like the fiddle and the mandolin, are always like, oh, we should work out something different. And I'm like, cool. What? I have no clue. Like, I am 100% stumped.
Right.
With what else am I going to play?
Well, it's if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
and
what is going to work better than
totally. And it's like, once again, like I tell them, and it's just about the song. Mm-hmm. Like, really, at that point, they're the featured people, and so my job is to just lay down the bass,
give them a couch
and let
to
them
sit
go.
on.
Exactly.
Right. And I was gonna say, like, some of the songs are really carried by the fiddle and the mandolin. Some of the songs are really carried by the horns for a more New Orleans thing. But I think in either case, your role is to just like frame that in the appropriate way.
Well, it's I kind of look at it. I think last time we talked, I said I kind of look at it like it as a big band.
Yeah. Because
it's an 8-person band, and I'm dealing with horns and strings, and so it's like setting up stuff for them and this and that. But really, it's just keeping them in check. It's great. I mean, like, that's one of the other things I really enjoy about the band is the ability to play with such a big band.
Right.
You know, not many people get to play with that big of a band every night, which
and
is
not many bands travel like 8-piece bands. Man, you know, even if they're 8 pieces at home, you know, they'll take 4 or 5 on the road or something. But you guys,
we go all out. Let me tell you,
I love it.
All out. Yeah.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the instrumentation of your kit and the voices you like to use for various things.
I've kind of honestly, I mean, it's funny you ask. I've kind of walked away from using any of those old timey, like a ton of cowbells or like a spot, you know,
right?
Because I felt like it kind of made it a little museum piecey. And so I kind of decided like I'm more of a quote unquote like modern player. Like, you know, I grew up playing like the old stuff, but I think it gives it a cool contrast. So my kit's more, you know, now it's just a ride, a crash. I do have a splash just because they're fun to hit.
Yeah.
There's some tunes that they sound good on, you know?
Right.
And just hi-hats, I still use those little 12 inches.
Yeah, man.
I've been debating, what do you think? I've been debating going to 15s. Going bigger. I actually used on a track we did, I used 17s.
Wow. For which track?
It was a demo.
A demo thing.
Just because we recorded in my house and I was like, I'm going to play on 17s today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
That would be cool, man. Those little 12-inch hats sound really good, but I think I'm already thinking of a couple tunes where like a big beefy pair of hats would just like. And
the stuff, I think we'll play a lot of it. I think it'll work really good on some of those things.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, I'm trying to go away from that.
Yeah.
Which we never really did that, but those were elements that
it alluded to that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to try to make it more modern, but not be, you know, like, you know how you hear like some of those like hip hop where they put the old timey stuff and then they put like more modern grooves. I just wanted it to sound like it was a modern drummer. That sounds silly when I say modern drummer. Playing it like that, you know, and I'm trying to.
I don't think they'll sue you or anything.
No. Please don't.
Yep.
Free subscription. No, I'm kidding. So I wanted it to be like a more modern sound just to give it something different. Because there's a lot of great groups out there that are doing that sound.
Right.
And, you know, I think as, you know, a band that does it, you want it to be something different. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty modern kit. I dropped the tuning on the toms.
Yeah.
I kind of went from the high bass drum down to more of a thumping kick.
Yeah. And the live sound you got on the record.
That was pretty awesome. He did a great job.
Really great.
Yeah, he did a real great job on that.
Yeah.
I mean, he taped the shit out of my drums. Just because the room is really like, the troubadour is pretty, you know, it's really shallow. And it could fit a lot of people, but it's really shallow and really tall. So I think everything was boomy. So he was like, do you mind if I put a little tape on your drums? I'm like, yeah, man, do whatever you want. And then I look and I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, you really went to town, but I don't, whatever makes them sound that good, I'm totally fine with that. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I like the way it's sounding. I mean, I just got a new 22 Constantinople, which I'm like insanely in love with.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's like my new baby.
Zildjian, you listening?
Yeah, Zildjian. That's all I use. K's.
Hello?
Hello. Hello. No, I love it. Well, it was weird because I played on the, you know, those 21-inch special drives.
Yeah.
That's been like my workhorse for 7-8 years. It's my favorite ride I ever had. And you know, when cymbals crack, they always crack about where you hit it.
Yeah.
So I'm in China and I'm like playing. You know, your cymbal always goes to the same spot. You know, the heaviest part of it comes down. And I see some on the top. It cracked on the opposite side.
Whoa.
Never even heard of that happening.
Wow.
I've never even cracked a ride in my life. I don't know what I mean, I beat the shit out of my ride.
Yeah.
I beat the crap out of it. But I like beating the crap out of my rides. It's like one of, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was like the vibrations coming around. And I have no clue. I was like, what the hell?
Man, it would have.
I just sit and look at it and cry now. It's like, oh my God, I miss you so much.
Oh.
But that new ride is pretty great.
Yeah, you found a new love.
Yeah, I found a new love.
Closing up in 5 minutes.
All right.
Perfect.
All good.
Well, we're getting kicked out.
Yep. I think that's a good spot to wrap it up.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Robert.
Oh,
it was a lot of fun talking to you. We've never actually got to talk like this.
Yeah.
That was great.
That would be the trash can going to the dumpster, and they're officially kicking us out. And
we picked the gem spots here.
Right on, man. Thanks for talking.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Again, big thanks to Josh for taking the time to talk with me. He could have been taking a nap or having some dinner in preparation for his show, but he basically went straight from sound check to the interview to the stage, and it was very cool of him. I cannot recommend Dustbowl Revival highly enough. Check out their records, go see them live. Everyone in that band is a badass in their own right, and the 8 of them work together so beautifully. It's just a good time waiting to happen. You can hear their new album, With a Lampshade On, at dustbowlrevival.com, and you can also check out their touring schedule there. Wherever you live, chances are they're going to be somewhere near you before long. So go see them and thank me later. We've gotten some great responses to our hashtag Working Drummer project on social media. Thanks for those, and keep them coming. Again, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and post pics and videos of your gigging exploits using the hashtag Working Drummer. We'll be on the lookout and reposting them. Matt Krause will be back with you next week. Thanks as always for downloading and listening. See you next time.